Hello and welcome to All Things Rex Worldwide. It's another Thursday. We're recording the live stream. Today I have an absolutely fascinating, fabulous guest named Lilly Wang. I'm going to tell you about her in a moment, but I want you to know that we're streaming from multiple platforms, but from the Los Angeles Facebook Tribune page, you can actually ask questions and leave comments while we're live. Now, you can do that after the show as well, and we hope that you will. And we hope that you will share the show and subscribe and have a marvelous time with myself and my guest. So, let me tell you about my guest. Lilly Wang has an MSc. She holds a master's degree from the London School of Economics in the UK, and her work has spanned multiple continents involving the United Nations, governments, startups, and of course, solopreneurs and small business owners. People just like you and you. Lilly has worked in the consulting, mentoring, and coaching space for over a decade, and she has studied and worked with some of the world's top coaches and mentors, including two Qigong masters. Her style is direct, spiritual, and heart centered, and she believes in pulling the potential out of you, creating structure and systems, and generating the results that you want and deserve. So, if you'll help me welcome Lilly Wang, she's here to provide for you just an incredible tips and suggestions for how you could personally change. Hi, Lilly. This is Lilly Wang. How are you today?
Hey Rex, I am so good. Thank you for having me. You're a phenomenal speaker and host. I'm excited.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, and I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. So, Lilly, you're a coach. You've done all these fabulous things, and have had influence around the world, as it says, with governments and different in the United Nations. How did you get started in all of this? What's your story? What's your journey?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. Many years ago, I did the traditional route. I did academia. I went to top schools. I consulted. I even published in top peer review journals. So we're talking Nature and did that kind of research and consulting. But one thing I realized was no matter how good my intentions were, no matter how much I wanted it or wanted to serve, I realized that I was the bottleneck. I was the bottleneck in everything. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example. Very early on in my career, I worked in Cambodia. So I consulted for the Cambodian government. I consulted for the inner city, for nonprofits, you name it, I did it. Um, but when you do these humanitarian projects, you do it because of the goodness of your heart, right? You want to help people. Yeah. Well, then you realize that it's not so much about wanting to help as it is about your capacity, your ability to help. Now, that's not an indictment on my capacity or ability or my intelligence or anything, but rather about my mindset. And really, when I talk about bottleneck, it was the fact that my mindset was the bottleneck. I realized, and this took a lot of honesty, raw honesty, authenticity, and courage to really admit, well, here I am. I flew across the world to help the people I said I wanted to help, but I would get frustrated. Or when, after months and months of work and things weren't panning out the way I expected them to at this point, I would get downtrodden. I would feel bad about it. I'd get disappointed. None of these things are cardinal sins, but what they were from a place of high performance was they were actually slowing down the results. So I realized that if I wanted to help people, whether it's big projects with governments and big business or smaller ones with small businesses and mom and pop shops, my energy would always be the driver in anything I did. You just can't get away from your energy. So because of that deep realization, I got into personal development quite a bit, as you know, and I've traveled across the continent studying, working with, following some of the best teachers, mentors, coaches, and really that's what propelled me from consulting, which was very business and systems based, to high performance coaching.
So would it be fair to say that um, you experienced, I don't want to use the word suffering necessarily, but you experienced many things that people typically will face or experience in the world, and yet through that experience, you came to a new conclusion about how you could transform yourself and transform your energy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, what were some of the first things that you did? How did you get over the less than marvelous experience that you were having, and move from there into being productive and resourceful and changing your moods and your state and opportunities?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think in today's fast-paced world of social media and so on, there's always an expectation that it was one book, one course, one event, and then overnight my life changed. I wish I had something like that. I've witnessed, though, that true growth doesn't necessarily look like that. So, although an epiphany usually takes a second, a minute, an hour, and it did for me as well, growth as applied, we have to apply the epiphany, retrain our thoughts and our patterns. It actually takes a while. One of the first things I did, though, was follow the right mentors. Look for mentorship, ask for it, be humble, look for how success looked like, what it looked like in other people. People who are 20, 30, 40 years ahead of me. And usually, when you look, when you seek, you will find, right? That's how the saying goes, as you seek, so you shall find. And that's what I did. I found great mentors who also invested their time and their faith and belief in me. And I started working with them, I started studying them. But you see, studying alone is insufficient. And I know everybody watching that yet could agree with that. So that was just one element. Now I had to apply. And my consulting work never really stopped. So as I was studying on mindset, on the power of stabilizing, grounding our emotions, using thoughts, quantum physics, the whole time I was doing normal things like working. So now it was time to apply all those things into my more consulting, into my projects, into manifesting bigger and better projects. So the answer really was, you got to open yourself up to how others are doing it. If you are always the expert, and if you assume that you're an expert in everything, or if you assume that it would make you less powerful as a person by asking for help, then guess what? You have created an internal inner ceiling. Think about it. If you are literally the best at everything in your mind, that's it. You've reached your cap. Right? And I don't care if you're 20 years old, like I was back in the day when I realized my epiphany, or if you're 40 years old, 60 years old, 74 years old, it doesn't matter. If you're the expert, then you have created a cap. And I know for any of you watching, that's probably not what you want, right? So you got to open yourself up to how others have advice, to how others have fashioned their successful lives, and then you got to apply it.
It's what is amazing, and I'd love you to address this. People don't know what to do. I mean, they really don't know what to do, but they act as if they're an expert when it comes to deciding what to do. I'm not going to do that. I won't do that. And I won't do this, but they don't know what to do, and they seek help. And it's really, for me, it's fascinating. The people who really get to be the top of their field still continue to seek improvement. And they still seek out coaches. I mean, the Academy Award winning actors, athletes, all seek out coaches and consultants for their performances, whether it's sports, whether it's music, acting, whatever it might be. And there's a meme floating around recently that was, I believe, in '91. I can't remember the gentleman's name. I didn't code it right. So, by the way, before I continue that sentence, let's say you see that there's a comment right there. You who are listening live from the Facebook Tribune page can leave comments and ask questions, and we encourage that you do. And again, like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. There's a notion, this meme that was going around was a gentleman. He's a 91-year-old, 94-year-old violinist, and they said, "Why do you keep practicing every day?" He goes, "Because I still can improve." And that's the thing that true masters understand, that they get better and better. They never reach. And somebody might cap out and say, "Okay, I'm done. I'm going to go pursue something else because I've gotten really good at this." But if mastery doesn't end, we don't know what the upper caps or limits are. And yet, when people who have trouble, either psychological, emotional, financial, spiritual trouble, they often go, "I know what's best for me, and I'm not going to do this." And they don't do it. What would you say to them?
What would I say to them? Oh, this just got raw. I mean, I'd say exactly what you said to them just now. I'd say exactly what I said to them just now, which is if you hold on with ego, that's ego, right? That's misinformed pride. That's unnecessary pride. And you have that amount of pride or ego, and you hold on to that and latch on to that, and you cannot humble yourself to ask for help and ask for support. That's it. That's as good as you'll get. Again, it's not an age thing. I don't care if you're 20 years old or 70 years old. That's it. But you see, the universe, God didn't create you to cap yourself. You are part of an infinite source of wisdom, of knowledge, of growth, of expansion. You better as heck not stop. Right? So what would I say to those somebody who's facing financial, career, relational, health, physical, anything of a bottleneck, of a strain in their lives? Ask for help. And when we say ask for help, I don't mean ask for the opinions of the peanut gallery. Ask for random opinions of people around you, unless they're doing better than you, or unless they have a track record or helping someone just like you. It's not the opinion we need. And you gotta, some people call that being ruthless. Sure. Why don't we just call it efficiency? Right? Hands up if you like efficiency. Be efficient. Ask the right people, ask the right mentors. And it might cost you money. It might cost you traveling halfway around across the continent. It might cost you your pride, but the gift at the end of that is that you actually get to experience a level of energy and creation and manifestation that you haven't up until now.
That's a beautiful answer, and I hope people take it to heart. There's a saying that misery loves company, and and people get together and they commiserate over coffee. Excuse me, dogs. They're gonna. They're So people get together over coffee and talk about their problems. And people who want to get rich ask their broke friends what they should do. And people who want to get happy ask their miserable, unhappy, sad friends, what they should do. Instead of going to the people who are happy and who are successful or who are wealthy or who know more, they go to this small circle of people they commiserate with.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I want to really just add to what you said there, how powerful that is. You are a reflection of the people around you. And a lot of the times when people are new to personal good development and they're saying, well, how can I get better friends? How can I get those mentors? How can I be part of a great community or network? Start now. Start with one person. You meet one person who has a good mindset, talk to them, appreciate them, give back to them. You have one person who's ahead of you. Maybe they're a business owner, maybe they're a teacher, trainer, coach. Talk to them, follow them. I'll give you an example. So a couple weeks ago, one of my newer students, she hopped on with me and she did something remarkable. All right, I'll give you some context. Most of the time, like Rex said, when people are not happy or not wealthy or not abundant or not as successful or fulfilled as they can or should be, what they really do is they look for the opinions, unsolicited, perhaps unnecessary opinions of the people around them. But this is what my client did remarkably. She wasn't exactly rich, but she had the right mindset. And she's on my Facebook. I have no idea if she'll watch this, but I think it'll serve whoever hears this, right? So here I am praising her. She may not hear it. Um, but she said, listen, I'm gonna work with you, Lily, but my mom is visiting me tonight and she's always been supportive. I'm gonna ask her for help. And Rex, right? You know how psychology works. You know how the subconscious works. You know how humans work. And as soon as I hear that on my head, I realize not out of judgment, but just out of an understanding of human psychology, 9 times out of 10, what do people do? I'm going to ask my husband. I'm going to ask my wife. I'm going to ask my best friend. I'm going to ask my mom. 9 times out of 10, they ask for that opinion to get out of a commitment, out of stepping up, leveling up. So that's why I want to honor this one of my newer students here, because she did that and I had to just be like, that's fine. I can't be attached. But she literally showed up on a follow-up call the next day saying, I talked to my mom. I communicated how important it was. I borrowed the money, Lily, let's go. So this means that mindset trumps everything. If you are not wealthy or as successful or as ahead as you want to, don't worry. Have the right mindset, ask for help, look for mentorship, and freaking keep your word. And that's really, really powerful. You're muted.
I know. I would argue. And by the way, if you saw me struggling to get my dog through the room here, uh, they are going crazy with whatever's going on outside. So, um, you have studied and have worked with energy, and you're a student of quantum physics, and you bring a lot of background to the kinds of changes that you talk about. And sometimes this kind of stuff goes over people's heads. So, but you have a great ability to simplify it, and I really appreciate that. And I've been fortunate to be able to hear you talk or speak with you at different events, and your wisdom and your ability to convey that to people is stellar. I really do appreciate it. Um, these people who are commiserating with their friends, and they just don't get it, and you invite them. I mean, there's a push right now, for example, that says, from providers on social media, essentially, it says, hey, you don't have to be an expert, and I would agree with that, but they say all you have to be is like one or two steps ahead of the person, who you can train. And I argue I love that. If a friend of mine has a problem, they go to another friend, and the friend is a little bit ahead of them, great, that's fantastic. I do expect more from coaches, however, or from mentors, or from people who are providing services, to be just a little bit more than two steps ahead of somebody. Because if you don't know how to make money, and your friend doesn't know how to make money, and they're just starting to make money, they may go through a very tumultuous learning curve and take you with them. So it would be beneficial to you or I or whomever, is to get a coach who has a proven track record and a success record, and knows the pitfalls. The reason why you get a tour guide sometimes is because they can point out, hey, there's the quicksand, and look at the beautiful waterfall. They give you the downside and the upside so that you can enjoy the journey. And that's what a good coach does. And I got to tell you, Meryl Streep and Academy Award winning actors, they go and get high paid coaching when it comes to doing work on set. And guess what? These people have been doing their work professionally. How many Academy Awards has Meryl Streep been nominated for? And she still seeks professional assistance. I mean, I don't want this point to be overly made on people, but I also don't want it to be lost on people that if you need help, get it, and I don't care who you find, as long as you find the person. I should be careful how I say this, but the person that is right for you, and that person hopefully will challenge you as well as comfort you. They will do a lot of things. Because they have the wisdom and the expertise. I do believe that they should have a background similar to the background that you have. In other words, if I want to learn to make money, I don't want to go to somebody who inherited a lot of money, because they don't know how to make money. They just know how to spend money that they inherited. So there's kind of like a science in finding a coach.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. And I think you're right, to go to a friend for some advice when you're struggling, and that friend is one or two steps ahead of you in that domain, can be absolutely brilliant. And that's why we usually have more than one friend. We have several or many friends, right? So you go to this one for relationship advice, yeah, this one for investing thoughts, and so on and so forth. But yes, experts have got to be different. Experts, mentors, coaches, financial advisors, real estate builders, whomever, wherever, they've got to be stellar at what they do. And I think you're right. It's not, we don't have to, just go on and on about this topic, but it shouldn't be lost upon people either. We need a level of mastery. And that's something I think modern society, and I mean modern as in these couple years, I don't think, not this whole generation, but these couple years has lost, right? Right now with social media, and I think that's one of the things you're referring to, it's that popular phrase, just get on there, just start, just blah, blah, blah. But you see, since you talked about coaching as an industry, there's about hundreds of thousands of coaches right now. Most of them are not making money. Why is that? Simply starting, simply doing, simply wanting to help is not sufficient. And that's interesting how we're going back to what I said at first. It's not sufficient. Everything is energy. Since you mentioned that I have a Qigong background, meaning, yeah, talking about energy. By the way, for anybody who's watching, if you're not familiar with Qigong, it's a Chinese term. All it means directly as a translation is it's the movement of energy. That's it, movement of energy. So I studied with two masters. They're very different lineages, but both of them are so deep in their lineages. We're talking thousands of years deep. They don't speak English, right? So that's true masters. Um, anyhow, so I've had a 2 decades of experience working with thinking about truly understanding energy. All right, let's bring that into sales and into mastery. Why do we got to seek mastery in what we do, whatever we do? So Rex was saying, well, what I do is coaching. Well, I want to bring this and open this to all of you. Whatever you do, you got to want to seek a level of mastery. And here's why. Everything is energy. So if you, this hand is you, all right? This hand is you, want money, this hand is money. You're asking for money from your customers or clients. Well, why would you deserve that money? Forget for a moment these affirmations that are a little bit misguided and thrown around. Like, you deserve money. You do, but everything is an exchange because everything is in circulation. So you have to abide by the laws of the universe, meaning be part of that exchange, be part of that circulation. Remember, this hand was you, right? And this hand is the money that you want and want to acquire. For you to want and acquire that money, for that to come to you, all right, there's got to be an exchange. What are you exchanging to get that money from your clients, your customers, the public? It's got to be enormous value. It's got to be a level of mastery that you deliver. It's got to be a deep level of study, discipline, dedication, you name it, you've got to be doing it. And because of that, your level of energy is very high. When I say high energy, though, I don't mean like jumping up and down. No. I say manifesting energy, powerful energy, right? We can talk about that later, but for now, when you're willing to truly do the work, inner work, technical work, whatever it is in your field, and gain a level of mastery, your level of energy goes up. Because of that, you are delivering enormously good value. And then, do you remember what I said a minute ago? To get what we want in life, we have to understand and work with the laws of the universe. You want money, you got to be part of the exchange. You want money or success or happiness, you got to be part of the circulation of things. You will get the money if you deliver enormous value. This is why it's not sufficient to just want it. It's not sufficient to just create an Instagram profile and expect the money, the rain to come down on you. No. Everything follows universal laws, and you got to be very, very good at delivering a level of mastery.
Well, I think that it's also really interesting that whether you look at like the Karate Kid, or you look at the history of mastery in the martial arts or in the mystical principles and practices throughout the ages, there was a 7 or 8 year or longer apprenticeship where an initiate or a novice would come in and would study. And then there would be a rite of passage into what's called a craftsman or craftsperson or fellow craft or whatever, where they would go from, they've now like, it's kind of like the teenage years now, they're not children anymore, but they're now in the kind of the teenage years. And then eventually they would graduate into, say, the upper level belts or the black belt, in which case in martial arts, a black belt was the beginning of your learning process, not the
Mm.
culmination of your learning process. And we've lost that in this day and age. Everything is just fast track. Pick up a phone, get a video, watch a YouTube thing, call your neighbor, as opposed to really learning and understanding that mastery is a process. So if you went to Mr. Miyagi, for example, you went to Mr. Miyagi because of his years of experience and expertise in shaping and guiding, and not only that, but doing what you want to learn. So the notion of mastery, qigong, for example, it's not something that you do in a day, and people don't understand. It's like yoga. You just don't start yoga one day and go, wow, look at that, I'm done, I'm complete. So we get it for certain things, but we somehow miss it when it comes to happiness, when it comes to mindset, finances, getting over problems. We somehow people have lost sight of the fact that that is a process that can be learned. There is mastery that can happen, and you can go from having been really destitute and depressed and sad and and just all out of sorts to becoming happy and financially secure and living a successful and life, but it's probably not going to happen overnight. And there's a process of going through it, and it's transforming the energy as you talk about, from it, you don't create it or destroy it, but you transform it into the kind of energy that allows you to live successfully. Would you how would you what would you say to people in that regard? Because I love what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would agree with what you said. Can you just rephrase the question for me, please?
Question is that the mastery process is an enduring process. It's something that takes time. It's kind of like the difference between a microwave meal and an actual meal that you cook and you prepare and you season and you cook for hours and then you serve. The ability to transform your thoughts and your mindset and your feelings to live a successful life. People don't realize that that's a process that can be mastered. They get that you can master martial arts or master playing the piano or master playing, juggling or something like that, but they don't apply it to the art of living well.
Mm.
So how do you encourage people to understand that living well is also a process that you can master?
Oh, wow, what a beautiful question. And it's so funny because as you posed me that question, I was reading some of these comments, and Dan Armstrong's comment or question was, how does a coach progress from two steps ahead to actually being that of a master? I think the questions are actually, yeah, quite similar. So funny. I was reading that when you were posing the question. It is an enduring process. Life is an enduring process. Mastering life is an enduring experience. You can't get away from it, right? And so number one, we have to dispel the notion and go get away from the notion of one book, one course, one training, one weekend, and you're done and you're set. Because that again feeds into the ego. The human mind has a higher self. This is what I teach my students, as well as an ego, right? And your higher self knows you're so worthy. You got to learn new things. You got to create a beautiful life and you got to learn as part of that journey. But the ego takes things personally. The ego says, if I don't know all the answers, if I don't get all the results in a week, that must mean it doesn't work. And that must mean I suck. So I'm going to change my mind. We got to dispel with the notion that it's not a one-time thing, number one. Number two, we really, really have to celebrate our wins. Um, Life can feel far too arduous and not fun if we don't celebrate our wins. So, what we got to do is celebrate how good we have it. Be grateful for how good we have it. Praise ourselves. Be grateful for ourselves. Right. And then another thing is never stop trying, never stop learning, never stop yearning. One of the things, most of my work is one-on-one coaching, but I do have one group, and that's twice a month. And I saw them last night, actually, Wednesday night. And I was teaching them, you have to set a vision. You must set a vision. Please set a vision. And again, I have students spanning from their early 20s to late 60s, right? I actually don't have a student in their 70s yet, but early 20s to late 60s. And I teach them very similar things. You must have a vision. And this is what I said to my group students yesterday evening. Okay. I said, listen, you may feel far from your vision right now. And that's the point. You are supposed to be far from your vision. Why? If you're very close to the so called vision you have, that is not a vision. Think about brushing your teeth. Is that truly a vision, a goal for most of you? Probably not, right? Because for the most part, it's quite doable for most humans. So a vision has got to be big. And how I explained it was this. Many, many, many years ago, and I know this might sound like, oh, poor little rich girl of a story, but many years ago, I was in medical school. I went into medical schools after many, many years of being a consultant, working abroad and all that, right? But I decided very late in the game to go to medical school, and it wasn't the right choice. And I know why I made the wrong choice, but that's another topic. So I was there. I was very broke because it was six-figure money suck. And my school of all schools had the highest rate of hours mandatory in class, meaning all these other schools were experimenting. You're smart, you're self-sufficient, study it, memorize 5,000 bones, come back and take the test. I'm a very, very independent person, so I chose a school of all the schools I could have chosen that expected us to be in class all day, every day, even though the learning was slow and arduous. But anyway, so I was unhappy to say the least. I I was broke. I was in a field I didn't love. I didn't want to sign up for decades of working with drugs, being in a hospital, working with sick people, right? It's just, some people are great at that. I have other things to be great at. But what I did do is I would still, through all of that, 80-hour work weeks, memorizing things that I had no interest in, all the bones, all the patient care, all the hospital work, I still sat down in the morning every single day and I wrote down the things I wanted, my vision. Okay. Some of the things I wanted then were just such a far cry from my so-called reality at the time. So if you're going through something hard right now, I need you to listen to this. Forget reality. Reality is what you deem as reality is but a flicker of a moment. That's it. What you think is stable and solid and set in stone and that'll never change, that's not true. That's just your perception. Remember this. What you think is a reality, maybe maybe you're poor, maybe you're sad, maybe you're etc. I'm not dissing you. I'm just saying I've been there. Remember, everything can change. This is quantum. Everything can change and everything is changing. All that is happening is whatever you're living today, in the literal sense of the word, today is a product of your thoughts, your reactions, your responses to things yesterday. That's all. And this isn't to shame you, this isn't to criticize you, but it is to empower you. That means if you want a better tomorrow, literally and figuratively, all you got to do is choose different thoughts today. But you see, that is too big of an ask for most people. Most people say, well, I'm poor now, or my whole family, my extended family, no one's done it, so I'm not going to set any goals. Well, then your tomorrow will never be different. You have got to take the bravery, take the courage, be vulnerable enough to just state that which you want and make that totally different from your reality. That's what I did 5 years ago. Have I achieved all of those things? No. But I've achieved many of them. And some of those things on that vision, that list I wrote when I was in medical school, again, I know, poor little rich girl story, but it really was the hardest time of my life. Because anyway, it's a long story, but some of them I'm living. And even more importantly, because I've begun living them and creating my life, I now I see with my mind and my heart that the things I haven't yet manifested, so to speak, I can. And that's what's powerful. You got to know that you can. Life is a process. Do not quit. Set your goals. Be willing to take the action. And you might see that you might just be able to change your life.
Oh, that is beautiful. And I appreciate your candor and your openness and your honesty, regarding yourself, your process, and what people can expect. We have to take a break right now, and I'm happy to do so because this show is brought to you by the Los Angeles Tribune and a great, incredible team backstage who makes this show possible and who runs everything so that we can bring it to you. I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the Tribune for the opportunity to bring you Lilly and my other guests. So with that in mind, we're going to take about 30 seconds to bring you this message from the Los Angeles Tribune, and we'll be right back with Lilly Wang.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Since 1886, our name has been a part of the world of journalism. We have earned a reputation for being a publication that practices integrity, authenticity, and responsibility. For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
And we're back with Lilly Wang, Coach Lilly. And Lilly, before we get too deep, let me back up a little bit. You talked about changing thoughts and you talked about gratitude. When somebody's focused on circumstances, and we know that you can't focus on circumstances and necessarily change them, because that's giving more energy to the circumstance than to the change that you hope to have come about. So for the person watching today, how would you, or what would you suggest that they could do to start winning a little bit each day and in changing their thoughts and their feelings so that they can navigate life a little bit better and have a lot more enjoyment?
Great question. Thank you, Rex. This reminds me of the Facebook Live you and I did separately a week ago. Right? Um, yeah, absolutely. Number one, I want to give the theoretical reason to why we want to have good thoughts, such as gratitude. Yeah, for those of you who are cerebral, you might enjoy this. Number two, I'll definitely get into the specifics, like a tool. All right. So the theoretical reason to as to why we want to employ the right thoughts to change our lives is this. Remember what I said a couple minutes ago? Nothing is ever the same. Nothing stays the same. It's just a universal law. Nothing stays the same. So what does that mean? I want you to employ a binary approach, if you would like. At least this is how I coach my students. A binary approach, because nothing stays the same. Therefore, anything and everything is always either getting better or getting worse. That's it. It's binary. It's one or the other. That's it. Better or worse. So if we were to start choosing better thoughts, choosing more powerful thoughts, more self-love, more loving thoughts, more appreciation for others, and so on and so forth, I know you intuitively know the answer. Do you think things would get better for us or worse then? Better, exactly. This is a theoretical concept, and it's a very, very deep one. Nothing ever remains the same. Everything is getting better or worse. Some of you might say, well, then why do I feel stuck? Or why do I feel like I've been living the same day for 20 years? You have, because you woke up that day when the universe wants to expand through you. That's another universal law concept. The universe wants expansion through you. It wants growth through you. It wants happiness, success, abundance through you. You are just simply repelling that by choosing not so good thoughts that your life is getting worse, even if it could have gotten better. That's a little bit of a complex subject, so let's just close the loop on this a little bit. If you were to have gratitude, you will literally, of the two options, there's only two options, better or worse. You would literally have picked the better option, right? Okay, so that's the theory. Now for the actual tool. Now I know lots of people talk about gratitude. How I teach it, again, some of you may know I have a degree in psychology. I went to grad school. I've taught at the university college level. I've done workshops at top firms, right? The World Health Organization, think tanks, working with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I do have a history of teaching people things. And because of that, I'm a little bit directive. So you ready? Here we go. All right. So how I teach gratitude is you got to be specific. Okay, you gotta be specific. Why do I say that? Most people profess that they're very grateful about their job, their family, their this, their spouse, their blah, blah, blah. But what happens the moment things go bad? The moment things go bad, all that so-called gratitude goes out the window, doesn't it? Right? So then what's the point? What's the point if it's so temporary, and more importantly, if it's so conditional? So we got to do something different. This is why I teach specificity. It is so important. Okay. When you're very specific with regards to gratitude, you actually give yourself the chance, okay, to train your subconscious to think differently. Funny story, I'm actually having a free talk on Sunday about the subconscious, and Rex will tell you a bit about that later, but it's just curious how I'm talking about that, and that's going to happen later this week. But when you're specific, you actually give your subconscious a chance to change. Okay, so there's two ways of being specific. If you want to write them down, please feel free. Literally, my students who pay me get this material. Number one, make your gratitude about the last 24 hours. Make your gratitude about the last 24 hours. Number two, anchor it to something very, very specific. So I'll give you an example. If I were to do gratitude about the last 24 hours, I would say, I'm so thankful that, because I'm going through something difficult personally, right? That's just how my week is going. And I chose to share that with a family member. So I could say, I'm so grateful that yesterday evening, my so-and-so, in my family chose to text me to check in on me. Wow. So do you see how that satisfies those two rules? It's about the last 24 hours, and it's very specific. Nothing about, I'm grateful for her, or I'm grateful for my job. Well, how sustainable has that been, and how unconditional has that been? So those are the two rules of specificity. I actually joke about it with my students. I call them the two golden rules of gratitude as I teach it. And now, finally, I want to give you a reason as to why we do it. So we started with a theoretical reason for doing it. Then I gave you the tool. Finally, I want to fill in the actual result of it. The result is a reason, okay? And what that is, this is what most people do when they set a goal. Their conscious mind sets a goal, but the subconscious repels it. Why? This conscious might say, I want to work out. I want to be fit this year. I want to start a business. I want to earn more money. The subconscious says, no, you're not, because you don't even mean what you say. Okay. I added the voice for dramatic effect. I hope it landed well with you. This is what happens when we do a tool such as the one I taught you. And there are other tools, but this is just one of the tools. Is now when you're this specific and precise with respect to your gratitude, your conscious brain says, I'm so grateful because my coworker brought me coffee this morning. I'm so grateful for my job because even though I was sick yesterday, I was sick yesterday and they totally let me go at 2 p.m. What compassion, thank you. All right. When that happens, your subconscious actually starts saying, oh, my gosh, you're right. Yes, the coworker did bring us coffee. And the significance of that is the subconscious actually starts trusting the conscious now. So now we're integrating the different parts of your mind. Your subconscious increases in self-trust. And guess what? The next time you set a goal that your subconscious has probably spent decades repelling and rejecting, your subconscious might actually say, okay, yeah, we're a team here. Therefore, your results start going up. This is how powerful it is. Yes, in the moment when you practice gratitude, you might feel better, your relationships might improve, you might have more optimism, all very, very valuable stuff. But truly, as I've taught it, after several months of this, you will notice the same things you used to want that used to or would have taken you 4 years to do, now you do in 4 months or 5 months. And that's just, what a brilliant change, right? To shorten your goals like that. I think you're on mute.
Nice to know. I'm sitting here talking, moving my mouth, and nothing's coming out. Thank you. I said I appreciate your sharing on gratitude and on specificity, and I think it's really lovely and important for a number of reasons, and some additional reasons. When you're specifying, and you can get specific, you're actually adding distinctions that you don't get if you just say, I'm grateful for my family. If you say, I'm grateful for this person and that person, here's why, and they did this and they did that. Now you're building this like bank account of things that you're grateful for. You're training your brain to look for things that are specifically good and specifically, wonderful, that you want to count, in that. Where if you just, I tell the story that my girlfriend at one time was a fine arts major, and we would go to the museum, and I'd go, okay, art. And she would walk me up to a painting of, yeah, but look at the texture, look at the play of light, look at all these different things. I go, yeah, okay, art. But what happened after a while was I started to appreciate all the distinctions that she was making that I didn't make originally, because all I would do is look at it, okay, there's a bunch of paintings in there. So the more that you can train yourself. After a while was I started to appreciate all the distinctions that she was making that somebody's playing something back. Was that you? Okay.
Sorry.
No worries. Very cool. So the more distinctions you can make, the more you enrich yourself. It's like I can have one big giant bill, like $100 million bill, or I could have 100 million single dollars, or 100 million pennies, and by virtue of the fact that I would have more pennies than dollars than one big bill, I might feel a whole lot richer because of the vast enormity of the piles that I'm building. And so this was what I think, training the subconscious mind to pay attention to these things. You then also be able to notice many more things because you honed your focus. So I love that. And I like the fact that you're talking about the two minds cooperating, and therefore it's really truly important not only that you do what you recommended, but also to keep your word. Because whenever you break your word, you're kind of like slapping yourself up, aren't you?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I'm very dramatic vocally, but not physically. I don't actually want to slap my face right now to make a point, but I like that you did that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
That
pretend
was easy for you. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And how funny, because that's actually something that's coming up in my content for Sunday as well. So I won't say too much.
Let's
yeah,
stop. Let's just stop and
integrity.
talk about. Let's just stop and talk about Sunday first, and then come back to the topic, so people know that they have an opportunity to hear more about this on Sunday in a special evening webinar that you're doing. So let's talk about that, and then come back and answer the question.
Sure. You want me to talk about it?
Of course.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, so I have an event this Sunday, Sunday evening North America time, so 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're in my time zone, I'm in Alberta, Canada, so that's Mountain. That's 7 p.m. Oh, I'm sorry, 6 p.m. Mountain time. So basically, I'm talking about the subconscious, as some of you know now. I do have a degree in psychology, but more importantly, I've trained and studied with some of the top teachers and coaches in the world. And as a consultant, I went from pure consulting, right, with big firms. I've worked in Geneva, Switzerland, big cities and all that. Then I started coaching and supporting startups, right, young entrepreneurs. And then I started helping older people who were, for decades procrastinating on their goals and who now wanted to launch something. It's just been a great journey. Because of that, I really, really had to hone an ability to understand people. Why was it that people would for years not experience success, but with the right tools, after 4, 5, 6, 7 months, they would start getting drastic changes? There was always a system and there was always a pattern to it. One such pattern was how we can reshape our subconscious. And that's what the topic is this Sunday. The event is free, 100% free. It'll be about 85 to 90 minutes. So just around an hour and a half. I haven't done an event on this topic, on how the subconscious affects your results, how the subconscious affects your manifestations to the public like this ever. So it's kind of exciting. If you want to come, it's bit.com/subconscious January. But Rex's team will put it in the chat so that you have something to copy and paste as well. Okay. Or you can go to my Instagram at the Lilly Wang, and it's for my first link in bio. Essentially, just as an example, one of my students is an accountant, and he was low 6 figures when he started with me. Granted, this wasn't in 2 months or 3 months. He's been with me for over a year, but we took him from low 6 figures to over $400,000. And he's been in the industry for at least 16, 17 years. How is that? It's not because I'm an accountant and I'm teaching him how to do his job. It's because I've studied the brain and I see patterns in people. And my job is to give you the tools and to help you apply the tools. So yeah, if you want to come, you absolutely should. I haven't done an event on the weekend in the evening like this in almost a year. So this is definitely a rarity. Worst case, if you can't make it, register. It is for free. And we can see what we can do in editing it and giving you the replay. Worst case, you get a free replay as well. If you have any questions, do reach out, do message us. But yeah, there you go. So thank you, the LA Tribune and Rex. It's bit.com/subconscious January. Again, it's absolutely free. And my events tend to be informative, inspiring, and fun. And I will absolutely aim to do that with you this Sunday as well. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening. Muted.
That's fantastic. We were able to get that up there for everyone who's watching to be able to go and register and learn from you in this live webinar coming up this Sunday, correct? So that would be January
30th.
30th. All right, excellent. So for those watching the replay on February 3rd, the event is over. But you can still get in touch with Lilly by searching for her on the web or going to her Instagram channel. So we go back to the question. Now, we've got about a little more than 10 minutes left, but we go back to the question. which was in your hands before I interrupted you and had you talk about the upcoming event.
Well, you see, Rex, I am so good at being present and in the present that a minute ago was already in the past. So you remind me of the question. Can you do that for me?
I'm so in the present that I also don't remember what it was.
I knew that was the case.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
All right. So what should we talk about?
Whatever you like. This is the perfect moment. This is the perfect moment. Yeah. It really has to do with the subconscious mind keeping your word and not breaking your promise to yourself.
Yes, yes, exactly, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I fooled you.
There you go. Good job, Rex. Rex the master. Yeah. Um, oh, we just froze. Hopefully he's back. Yeah, there you go. You're back. So, yeah, the reason why we got to keep our word, pure business without any of the spiritual side of things or the quantum side or the energy side says you got to keep your word. That's very true, but there's actually a very, very deep reason for that, and that involves our self-trust. You see, every time you break a promise to yourself, really what you're doing is you're disintegrating your brain. You're cutting off the communication and the friendship and the mutual support within your own mind. And that's deep and that's sad, right? Because a couple minutes ago, I said that as you try to actually be very, very precise and specific with respect to your gratitude, now your subconscious cannot argue with it. It cannot argue with the fact that the mailman smiled at you and you're grateful for that, or that the rain stopped this morning at 8 a.m. and you're grateful for that. And because of that, you're integrating the different parts of your mind. Well, same thing, and the opposite as well. Every time you break a promise, an agreement, you're actually breaking apart your mind. And now they're not in unison and they don't operate in unison. So this is why we got to keep our word. And I don't mean so much all the little things, right? Because we're human, we're going to lose track of some things. I don't mean, let's say you're a very busy person, you have 50 people to text back today and you forgot to text one back. I don't so much mean it that, because there's human error and that's okay. What I do mean though is a real full-on agreement. Most people I work with, everybody I work with really, really wants the support, really wants the coaching. But some people are so disempowered that even after having made an agreement, they're still trying to kind of change things or disappear and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that to plant a seed and encourage anybody to do that. And I know nobody here would do that. But the point is, sure, that hurts my feelings. And sure, that a change affects me a little bit. I'm human. Of course, I want the best for you. But really what saddens me is, like, of the very couple people, only a couple people, the vast majority of people follow through, get great results and so on. But, for example, somebody who hasn't paid for their coaching after half a year, I witness them and I observe that. And the worst part is not even so much the money, because I am well taken care of, right? So it's not so much that, but rather that after half a year, 7 months, 8 months of not keeping their word, guess where they're at? They're not anywhere better and they're not anywhere further. And that's for a reason. I'm not saying this to be ominous or anything. Please understand, I'm being exceptionally vulnerable and honest with you here. Like exceptionally so, because I don't have to reveal that I ever have gotten upset by one person, right? I don't have to say that. But what I'm getting at is, when you really observe the people who make firm agreements and then who don't keep them, generally they're not moving ahead. The opposite is true as well. The opposite is true as well. I have clients who come to me already wealthy. Of course, they're going to keep their word. And after half a year together, usually, boom, growth, enormous growth. I have clients who come to me, I've helped single moms. I've helped people working at Chipotle. I'm serious. I've helped people for whom more than half of their income in the first couple months before we raise the income goes towards coaching. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying people have chosen to do that. And the common thread, okay, that connects all these people who've gotten amazing results is the fact that they keep their word. Initially, it's not because they necessarily want to. It's not necessarily because it's natural. It's just because they'd be too embarrassed or they don't want to hurt my feelings and break a promise. That's just the initial starting point. What's beautiful, though, is after a couple months and we work on our mind, our subconscious, we learn about the laws of the universe, it becomes an ingrained thing within them. Now they don't break anything with other people. They keep their promises with other people. And do you see how over time that's going to increase their results? Why? Because their subconscious actually has started, after years and years and years, has started believing them. And that's very, very powerful. Muted.
That's beautiful. My girl dog is going a little bit wacky here, wanting to go in and out, and barking. So I've muted myself, so I don't always pay attention to coming back. So she's just adorable. But she's being very stubborn today. Which is not bad. This is good. She's got a mind of her own. But what you just said was really beautiful, because what it demonstrates is that through process and through that seasoning of process, in other words, it doesn't happen overnight, but during the time in which you are learning to acquire these new behaviors or these new habits, you are developing mastery, going back to the topic, of new thinking and new feeling and new behaving, so that you can surprise and delight yourself along the way. You win along the way, as opposed to waiting till you get to the end to win. The journey can become that much more incredible, because you're transforming through the journey. You're not saying, okay, wave a magic wand and then one day I'll be different. You're actually finding out how you can be different on a day-to-day basis. And some days you may not notice much, but that's where that gratitude comes in, right? Where if you're specific and you pay attention and you start, being grateful for the process you're going through, anything and everything becomes possible. So I really love the way that you assemble and tie things together, and the value and the benefit that you add to people. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to share some closing thoughts, but I really do hope that people who watch this now and between now and Sunday will sign up for your webinar and take advantage of this time to spend with you. So, and that would be a good thing for them, and a wonderful thing for them. And I'd love to see it full. So with that in mind, Lilly, before we part our ways from the show, what kind of closing comments or remarks you would like to leave people with from your heart, whatever you'd like to say?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rex, for that. First of all, I really want to thank you, and I want to thank the team and the LA Tribune and everybody. I want to thank all of you for being here as well. One closing thought I would say is, remember I said earlier, nothing is final. Nothing is final. Everything is temporary. And remember, the binary method, things are either getting better or worse. There's no such thing as a second day that was an identical copy of the previous day. Your next day will always be a little bit better or not as good as today. You get to choose. And finally, I just want to say, far be it from me being on my high horse and because I'm a high performance coach and I'm successful and all that. No. If you're at a place where you're not fully proud of yourself and you're not really happy, or or you're going through something, I want you to know this. Several years ago, I left, some of you mentioned what you did in the comments. Thank you for being so engaging, right? Several years ago, I left a multiple six-figure experience. All of that was sunk into medicine. And one person said, "You're amazing. You're not even complaining about that." Trust me, for a while, I was, because I just didn't have an abundant consciousness. And it was really hard. And then my dad got sick and he got lung cancer, and it was stage 4 by the time we discovered it. And me being the black sheep, leaving medicine, I didn't have anything to do right away. So I took care of him, and every day I took care of him. I won't get into it now, but long story short, my dad was actually quite abusive of me when I was younger. And then he hid it because he knew that his siblings and his parents would in no way accept that behavior. So he knew it was wrong. It was just something he did. And I took it. I had to take it because I was a child. So from that perspective, it was quite difficult to take care of him after, all of that. Then he passed away, and there was a lot of grief. And I was, I was literally in poverty. I would go to networking events trying to get myself back on my feet. And I would have to, I don't have one at my desk today, but, like a random Starbucks or coffee cup, those paper cups, I'd have to, like, from several months ago, rinse it out, keep the cap on the top, and just bring it to every single networking event. So I had something in my hand so that I didn't have to tap a debit or credit card and get a latte for $5 because I didn't have it. That's how I had started again. That's where I began again. Because how do you unless you have a six-figure career, how do you deal with 6 figures of debt for medicine, right? But I started from the bottom. I started from the ground up again. And it was because every single commitment I made it seriously. I didn't do it perfectly. I wasn't a master at everything every single time, but everything I said yes to, I took seriously. And I just signed to do my TEDx, just to give you perspective. But less than 2 years ago, I was doing free events. I was speaking for free. Sometimes I was asked to speak, and the host, the coordinator of the event, could only pull up 8 people for me. I did it. I never judged what the opportunity was. Why would I do that? Because if you judge an opportunity, the opportunity is going to judge you. It's just quantum physics. So what I did do is anything I chose to do, I brought the best I could. The best I could 2 years ago when I was starting from scratch again wasn't the money, but it was my personality. It was my dedication. It was my enthusiasm in being as much of a master at what I could give as I could. So forget perfection, choose, dedicate yourself to giving a lot to the world. And whatever you're going through, I promise you, you will overcome, you will get through it. But it is going to cost you your dedication, your commitment, and your good energy. So that's what I want to leave you with. Far be it from being on my high horse and perfect. I want to tell you, even a couple years ago, I went through the dark night of the soul. If you're going through that, keep going. Learn from the best. Be humble. Ask for help. It might cost you money. It might cost you your dedication, but it might just be worth it. Thank you.
Wow. Well, Lilly, absolutely marvelous time spent with you. It's always a pleasure to spend any time that I can with you. So I thank you for being here today. And again, you can click the link either in the chat room or you see it's crawling there against the bottom. But go spend Sunday evening with Lilly Wang, and you'll be glad that you did. And with that, I'm going to have to say goodbye for now. And of course, you and I will talk in the next day or so, of course,
Yes.
and or even later. But I really do appreciate you for being here. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Rex, and thanks the LA Tribune. I've watched so many of your comments as well. You all are phenomenal. Thanks for engaging. And of course, if you want to come Sunday, absolutely do, because I am keeping it free, and I like to think I'm fun, so I'll bring some fun.
So I have a question for you, because a lot of people don't get this, but if you and I monitor, these shows, which we can and we do, if people leave questions or have comments on the recorded show, we have an opportunity to respond. If you're watching the recorded show and you don't ask a question, we can't answer it. So it's another reason for you, whether you're watching live or otherwise, to always leave comments and ask questions and engage. All right,
Absolutely.
Lilly, with that, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And have a fabulous Sunday night. Hey, I think I might even be able to get there.
Nice. I'd love that.
Have a great one. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
That's Lilly Wang. And wow, what a treat to have Lilly on the show today. I want to thank her. Again, I want to thank the background team who has made all of this possible. And for the Los Angeles Tribune, it's truly wonderful. We record every Thursday. And from the Los Angeles Tribune Facebook page, you can leave comments and ask questions. You can like it, but it's also on YouTube and LinkedIn and Twitch and Periscope and Twitter, and available on Roku TV. So it's on multiple platforms. We do record while we are streaming live, and so it's available in replay almost immediately after the show is broadcast. So you can steer your friends, your family, colleagues, or whomever you want to share the show with, even if they missed it live. So that's the good news. I'm so pleased to tell you that my upcoming guest is a delight. I'm not going to tell you who that is. It's somebody who's very important to me. It has to do with another guest who was on the show earlier in the broadcast, and we're going to update some news and some things and let you know what can go on. So I'm going to keep it kind of a mystery for now, simply because I do want you to tune in. I do want you to watch. It's for an important cause, and there's a reason why we're doing this. So without going into the details at this moment, next Thursday I will have a guest that I know you're going to love, and each and every subsequent Thursday I have a lot of incredible and impressive guests that you're going to surely want to tune into and watch and listen live if you can, and of course recorded if not. That said, I do need to tell you about my book, Life on Your Terms, Create the Life That You Want. For anybody who has purchased the book and or who does purchase the paperback or the hardcover from Amazon, you can go to my website right there. It's rexsikes.com/book. And I'm giving you a gift, a $497 training called the Mastery Loop, and it's on Mastery to accompany your purchase of the book. So you can read the book, you can watch the online training, and that's my gift to you for having purchased the book. I ask that you rate it, review it at Amazon. That's a wonderful thing to do. But go and get the book and learn how to live life on your terms and create the life that you want, and you'll be glad that you did. So with that, I am Rex, trying to get rid of the book. And with that, I'm Rex Sikes, and I'm so glad that you were here today. And I hope you will join me next time on All Things Rex. So remember this: if you consider everything a blessing, then everything is a blessing. So celebrate everything.